Hey there, Soul Shines! It's Michelle here, and I am so excited about this tutorial. I actually started my channel because I wanted to do this tutorial and the next two tutorials. So I'm super excited about this, and so let's talk about what we are doing today. This is an old one that's been used around, so it doesn't look the greatest, but this dress tutorial and this hat tutorial are both the patterns are both available on my Etsy shop. The link is in the description. My Etsy shop is always linked in my description. The tutorial for next week is the hat tutorial, and the tutorial for the week a couple weeks after that is the dress pattern tutorials, so that you guys can make your own. But today we are doing the part that gets the towels ready to put the topper on it. So we'll be doing that. I have this one. It's still attached to a string because that's how that pattern works. This is the towel I will be using for the hat tutorial. This is the towel I will be using for the dress tutorial. I'm really excited about these. So what you will need for this tutorial: you need a towel, a hand towel. Somewhere in the tutorial I mentioned one kind of towel to avoid. But basically you look for a hand towel or a kitchen towel that you like and would be fun to make. You're going to need yarn. It's, I can't tell you how much. I have not done that yet. How many yards? I have no clue. I just make it. It doesn't take a lot, I know that. The yardage for the yarn that you will need for the towels is going to be, so here on the dress, whatever is that center band that goes around, whether you have a solid dress or you have stripes, whatever is a solid band is the color that you want underneath here. So that's that color. And then for the hat, whatever you have for your brim and pom-pom, that is the color that you need for the towel. I have them, obviously I've made them with red and white. I'm using this like ecru color here because it matches the towel, and then I have a dark green that I will be using for this, for the hat, for the tutorial. Editing Michelle here, popping in to say, oops, I forgot to tell you what kind of yarn. It's a 4-weight yarn, worsted weight. I usually just use like a Red Hearts or something equivalent. You could try cotton yarn. I haven't ever done that yet, but it should work. Pretty much anything that's a 4-weight yarn should work fine. Back to your regularly scheduled program. You will need either safety pins or my favorite, and what I show you how to use, bobby pins, just like, you know, the kind you use in your hair. These are super helpful for doing the towel, and I can use them as a stitch marker, and this one I used as to hold my string so it doesn't come out until I'm ready to use it. String, it's yarn. So you'll need bobby pins. You're going to need a, do I have one? Okay, this is an example of what not to use. You're going to need a darning needle, not plastic. Do not use plastic. You're going to need a metal one. Don't worry if it's blunt. It usually pokes right through the yarn pretty well. If you're finding that you have a hard time with it poking through the yarn, then you will need an awl. But for the towel, you need these and an H hook or size that you want. If you know that you knit, if you know that you crochet at a tighter and you usually have to get a bigger hook, then you'll want to go up a size. If you typically crochet looser, you might want to go down a size. I typically crochet at the kind of common gauge the patterns say. I very rarely have to change my needle size to get gauge. So, needle size, keep doing that. I very rarely have to change my hook size. So if you have to change your hook size, consider doing that for this hook. Honestly, I don't think that it's super matters, but I use a US size H. So that's what you need: bobby pins, probably 10 to 12 maybe bobby pins, a blend needle, your crochet hook, a towel, and yarn. And that's what we need. So let's get over to our other view and get crocheting. I have printed out the pattern. One nice thing about printing it out is that I get to edit it, as I realized there was a couple of mistakes in it. So I will send updates to the people who have already bought the pattern. I will also be including links to the tutorials I make. I have here a couple of towels. We're going to start with this one. You can get holiday towels, you can get everyday towels. These would make fantastic wedding gifts. I have a friend who actually does that frequently. She adds it to a set of things that she makes. I have this other towel. It says, "Live every moment with joy and laughter." I'm going to be doing this towel for the dress pattern, and I realized that my towel that I was using, you might not be able to see everything. So I wanted to actually go through the whole process with this, and then I might go back and forth. I don't know which towel you will actually see more of, or if you'll see both. But I wanted to make sure that we could actually see the colors. So I have this yarn here. It's not a perfect match for color wise, but I think it will look good, especially when I have white with it, because I'm going to do this color and white for the dress, and I think it will look fine. Most people probably don't even notice that there's a difference in color. I do. So I'm going to set this down for a second, and I'm going to I want my towel in half because I need these towels. I only have holiday towels right now. So I need to get me some everyday towels when there's not a holiday. So I'm going to use both of them. Let's pull out the pattern and read it. I've been doing some editing, so I've printed off from the draft file, so it doesn't have the pictures. What it says is you can either cut the towel in half and make two, or fold the towel in half and blanket stitch across the fold. So let me talk about that. Some people don't like how thin, because this is a really thin towel. Some people don't like that, and so they want to keep it a whole towel and just, you know, work with it as like that. If you have a towel that's thicker like this one, you may choose to cut it in half. I actually cut most of mine in half. If you wanted to keep the towel whole, you would do the blanket stitch just across the very top of this without cutting it. You need that blanket stitch in order to attach the towel. So you would follow the same directions for the blanket stitch across here and the crocheting as with the other. So I fold it in half how I like it, and then I kind of just pull the scissors kind of tight, and I'm just gonna do I kind of hold this down, put my scissors in, and kind of pull it out, trying to keep it so that they're flat. And this is how I just cut it all the way across. And now I have one towel for this project and one towel for another one. One thing I like these to take the tags off. I don't need the tag anymore, so I just like to snip that off so it's not in the way either. I forgot bobby pins. Okay, so I needed bobby pins. For the next step, you could use safety pin, or not safety pins, straight pins, sewing pins with the cut towel or the folded towel, but we're going to use the cut towel. You're going to fold down 1/4 of an inch and then fold again 1/4 of an inch. Now 1/4 of an inch, that's not exact, it's just a good kind of idea, I guess. Pin or use bobby pins to secure the folds, and If you want to, you can sew across like with machine or hand sew or even glue the hem. But I don't worry about this step because a blanket stitch will hold it in. So I'm going to turn this over and I'm just going to fold down. I tend to do this in two processes. So I fold down what looks to be about 1/4 of an inch. This doesn't have to be exact, but I do want to kind of try to keep it the same size all the way across. Oops, lost a bobby pin. It went flying. Okay. Okay. Then once you have this down, so I'm going to take the one out and I'm just going to fold this over again. And I like to keep these in just to help hold that. Oops, my bobby pin's doing weird. I want to kind of get that close to the edge. Take this out and hold this so that it doesn't unfold. Put one in here and I'm going to put a second one in here. Sometimes for this row I like to put them closer together, so I might actually get more bobby pins. We'll see. Some people may just be able to start right away and just do 2 folds and stick your bobby pin in. I've tried doing that a couple times and I just find it doesn't give me as clean of a fold. I need to get the bobby pin I dropped. Twisted bobby pins. Okay. I use bobby pins a lot in my crochet, but I really love them for this process. Okay. So the next step, measure white yarn. I'm actually going to go through and change these to color 8. Got interrupted. So like I was saying, I could use white, but because of this, the color of this, I'm actually going to use this ecru color. I think that would be way cute for a top or for a hat. So basically, following your pattern, you're going to choose the yarn that makes sense for your pattern. You're going to measure and you're going to go across and you want 1, 2, 3, 4.5 at least. More is probably better just so that you have enough. And this is the yarn we're going to use to do the blanket stitch. Here, 1, 2, I'm actually going to go like this. And that makes 3, 4, and about half. And for my first one, this is how much I had left, which was a great working amount. And I will show you before I really quickly. In, let's see, this one here, this one will be easier. You can see here's the blanket stitch down here, and it creates this. We create this foundation crochet or single crochets that we'll get to. That's where, so we can hook our tails to it. What we're gonna do is I just fold this over the top here, over the side, pinch it with my fingers, send it up through. Okay. The other thing I'm gonna do is down at the other end, I'm going to tie a knot. I started going through a couple times, just tying a little knot down at the end, and that's gonna help it so it doesn't come all the way through. We're gonna turn it over, poke it up in through, right up in here through, up in the top. Well, this one I actually will probably use the awl because we've got this binding thing that's a little bit tight. We'll see if this works. Okay, just gonna poke it through because I couldn't get my needle up through. Now I can pull it up through and pull through, pull, 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 pull. And my little knot is going to stop it. Now I'm going to take this out for a second. I'm going to put my yarn down and through there so that when I do my blanket stitch over this edge, it just catches it right in there. But the knot will help as well. Okay, and then we're going to turn it back over. And like I said, I may actually need another poke through with the awl down here, but I shouldn't throughout the rest of this. So after you've got it through, you're going to turn it over with right facing, and then about a 1/4 inch, kind of down here-ish. I'm going to poke this through. See, I was able to go through it without problems. I'm going to poke it all the way through. I'm going to kind of pull it most of the way. So I can kind of... And then before I tighten up my loop, I want to take this back through underneath towards the edge of the towel. And again, I'm just going to go through. This is actually a little bit thinner 4-weight yarn, and it's okay. It's not like a super big deal. I'm gonna make my knot in the end, just like I did on the other one. I like to go through it a couple times just to give me a sturdier knot. This one's a little bit longer than the other, and it's okay. I'm just going to poke it up through right near the edge of the towel here. Okay, I'm going to pull that away all the way through till it hits the knot, and then I'm going to take and put it down under here. I like to kind of see if I can tuck this little end in a little bit, and then make sure my yarn is tucked under there so that it gets sewed in. And then we're going to tuck it under there because it's a little bit longer than the other one. Okay, I'm going to come over here to this side, and I did that on the wrong side. Okay, when one does it on the wrong side, one takes it out. I'm just going to take this out, pull that back out of there, and pull it all the way through because there's just the knot on the one end. Now let's do this the right way. My knot's on this end, so I'm going to come to this end, put it back on my thing. Now I'm going to come up over in here to the right side when it's facing me on the wrong side. Pull it all the way through. I'm going to take this one out so I can put my end over here. Put this back in to hold that there. Take this one out, tuck it in all the way to the end of it. And now, when I turn it over, it's on the left, which is where I want it. Now, technically, I think you can do the blanket stitch from the other side, so if you wanted to do it from the other side, that's okay. But this is how the instructions are written, and this is, so I'm following what is in my written pattern for everybody. I don't want to do it differently. So I'm just going to go down. It's probably a little bit lower, but I'm actually going down like underneath the edge of the towel right there. Just think it's a little easier. So I'm going to pull this one through all the way, except for I'm holding my thumb there to make a loop. I don't think I really said that last time. And then I'm going to come up and go underneath towards the edge of the towel. I want to make sure it's actually catching that whole thing. Kind of snug that one up a little extra because it is that end one. Next step, you're going to come over and you're going to kind of keep it in line with this all the way across down the whole thing. Let me read it, how it's worded so we can understand. Bring the yarn back up to the top. Send the yarn under the yarn where it comes out, which is what I did. This way, when it goes under, it's going to come over the top of that. and about a fourth of an inch over and still a fourth of an inch down. Poke it through from the front to the back, bringing the yarn up the back to catch the loop at the top. So that means we're going to come up, well, I'm just going to go like this for now and then show you what we do. An easier way. Okay, so you're going to go through it, but you want to catch the loop at the top up here. Now that the noisy vehicles are gone past, I'm going to go in over here. I'm going to pull it through. And I'm going to make sure that I'm catching it with this behind. Then that way it catches the loop there. If I take this out, it's caught it there. Then we want to pull it so it's snug but not too tight, because like we don't want it to scrunch up the thing. And I don't want to pull these too tight because see how that makes the fabric go funky. I just want it to be snug but not too tight. And to make it so I don't have to do that second go through the loop, I'm just going to make sure my string is, my yarn is behind my needle, so that when I pull it through, it is already caught in behind my yarn like that. Okay, and I'm just going to keep going all the way to the end. So this one's a little bit shorter than the others, which is a great reminder. We want it to be kind of consistent the same way across, but this one time isn't going to be too big of a deal. In fact, sometimes a person could go and intentionally make one longer or shorter, especially if they know their consistency is really off. They could intentionally make each stitch like, okay, I'm going to do a short stitch and I'm going to do a longer stitch. And then it doesn't matter as much if the longer stitches don't look really even. Oh, it got kind of tight, so I'm going to pull it out a little bit and then tighten it up again. And I do want to take a second to show you why this one stitch being smaller isn't as big of a deal. Let me pull up this one that has the dress on it. The stitches are actually quite a ways up here. So here's the bottom of that stitch, and that's like my whole fingernail, almost will have my fingernail. So like with a dress pattern, especially if you have some that are longer or shorter, it's not going to be as noticeable because the patterns, even this one, the pattern kind of covers most of the stitches. Most people aren't going to look at it and be like, oh my gosh, your stitches aren't even. Only you'll know. Unless you tell somebody. I might have some of these a little bit fatter than I necessarily want them. But it will all be okay. Work out in the end. Okay, I've gotten to where my yarn is getting caught in there because it's about the same length that's coming out. Actually, it's longer than the length that's coming out. So I'm just going to pull it so that I'm going to kind of dangle my needle here for a second. Let that unwind a little bit. Okay, I'm going to talk a little bit about tails while I'm doing this. I was thinking as I was coming across here, if I didn't want to use the other side as well, I could have made my fold a little bit higher so that the top of the tree would hang down underneath. That's one option. There are some towels that you can buy that I do not recommend. They're a strange kind of microfiber. They're from I've gotten them before from the Dollar Tree. They're really weird. And they're not absorbent, so I wouldn't even suggest. They just have a weird texture. They're not absorbent towels, so I would not get them, especially if you're getting it for a gift. If you were giving this for a gift, you definitely would benefit from getting a nice higher quality. Like this is a pretty thin towel. It's fine for my family. But if I were giving it as a gift, I would probably go with a higher end towel that's a little bit thicker. And the thing is you can get, like some of the towels I've gotten have been from Walmart. And and they've still been kind of inexpensive, but they're thicker, higher quality towel. So just kind of look around. I haven't tried this with the cotton towels that are kind of like similar to a flour sack towel, but I imagine that they would work just as well. So that is pretty much up to you. You can do kitchen towels, you can do bath towels. If you are making wedding gifts and you know people's colors, choose towels in their colors. Okay. And I just, a little side note, this green right here, it's like a foresty, dark green color. It's like my favorite color of green. I like mint greens and teal greens too, but there's something about the dark green that I just have always loved. Not my favorite color, but definitely high up on my list because you wanted to know that. Okay, super close to the end here. Gonna go down here on the edge. Kind of as close as I can get it to the edge. And then this one I'm going to come up through just like I normally would. But I'm going to make sure that this kind of gets snug around the edge there. And obviously I don't have anywhere else over here to go. So I'm going to poke it down through. You're going to go in right here along the top. I'm gonna tie my knot right here. Just a little knot so it just doesn't come undone. But I've never had any problems with it coming undone, so it's probably just paranoia. Pull that through. Kind of pull a little bit snugger to get that knot to go underneath. And because I'm extra paranoid, I'm going to go through again. I'm just threading it underneath inside those stitches. I'm going to tug it just a little bit so it scrunches. Take my scissors, cut it off, and then when I unscrunch it, it just pulls that down in under there. And this is how much yarn I had left. So definitely don't want to go less than 4.5 or you don't have any yarn to work with. So the pattern says, count the number of blanket stitches you have around so you can add or subtract as needed. Overlap the towel about 1 inch. You'll be working a stitch into the both sides as one where they overlap. So that means that I'll be working into the front, or the stitches that are on the front and the stitches that are on the back here. You'll want 32 single crochet stitches in this pattern. This is for the hat pattern. We'll overlap these, and I'm going to kind of look. I like the way this edge looks a little better than this edge, and it may not matter because, like I said, the dress is going to cover it, but I'm going to overlap it this way. I try to kind of overlap it so that the stitches are kind of similar, and it's about 1 inch. It's not perfect. I'm going to hook it together. Then I'm going to start counting. This stitch here is going to be lined up with this. So I'm going to start here. Just this first stitch past my thing, the edge of my towel. I'm going to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, and 31 is this last one. So I have 31 stitches. And then depending on your pattern, some of my patterns call for 32 stitches around, and some call for 31. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36. So I have 36 stitches around on this towel. So that's what we got so far. It's gonna look lovely. This will look much better after it gets washed and this wrinkle gets out of here. Or I may just soak it in water before I hang it up just to get the, kind of block it even though it's a towel. Okay, so we're going to start on this side. I've got my crochet hook. Oh, I only had 31. So what I'm going to need to do is increase 1 stitch when I'm putting my rows in. Now, if you have, say you have 33, then you would need to decrease 1. Got my big old ball of yarn. I'm going to move that, tuck that in a little bit so it's not in my way. Pull in from the center pole. If you haven't already watched it, I have my tutorial on how to make a big old ball of yarn with the center pole. This ball of yarn is one that I've had for longer, so it is not rolled in the nice way. We've done the whole first page of the pattern. Yay! Second page, this is called the base round. I usually do 2, but you can do 1 round if you get it in 1 round, or you can do 2. If I had done a lot of these really close together, I might would have need, like say I had like 48 or something, then I might decrease 8 stitches around, and I would distribute my stitches throughout, and then a second round to decrease again. You really don't want to do more than 2 rows, so try to get all your increases or decreases in the first 2 rows. Increase or decrease in a single crochet round as you do the round, spreading them evenly throughout. So it's like maybe if I needed to do 8, I would do 1 here, 1 here, 1 here, 1 here, 1 here. Kind of, I don't want them all on top of each other, so I'll kind of like every few stitches so that they're kind of evenly distributed around. With right side of the towel facing you, so the outside of the towel, we're going to attach our yarn at the edge of the overlap in the leg. So the legs, what I'm calling the legs, are all of these lines that come down from the yarn that I just attached. That's what I'm calling a leg. And then the top is the line that goes across between the 2 stitches. We're going to work the leg and the top of the front layer of this, and then just the top of the back layer where it overlaps. And then we're going to be working through the leg and the top around. I'm just going to make a knot. And I'm going to come in here, and where my, this is about the edge where my towel is, so I'm going to go under that one. I'm going to move this out of my way. Go under the loop there, so I'm under a leg, under the loop, and then I'm just going to grab the top loop of the back. And sometimes, as far as which side of the towel goes on top is completely up to you. So if I wanted to switch these, so if I did it this way, I would go through this on here, and because it's on the edge, that's why it's a little awkward. But then I would go through there, and then I would go through my one there and come, and that's where I would do my stitch, and then work a way across. I want this towel to be the other way, so you could choose either way. I want this back in here to help me hold it. So I'm gonna go under here, I'm gonna go under here, and then I'm gonna go under the one in the back. I'm gonna pull through all of those, and then I'm gonna go through just like a single crochet. And if you don't know how to single crochet, I have a tutorial for that I will leave up in the iCards. Underneath my leg, I'm going to go in the top of there, and I'm going to go in the top of the one in the back. Prepare my yarn like I normally would. I'm actually going to work over my edge, and you're going to pull it through all those loops, including through the leg, up, and you're just going to go through. And then you've got your 1 stitch. Now I can move this out of the way. I'm going to go under the next leg, under this loop onto right between the 2 legs, and then right between the 2 legs on the back, make sure that my tail is over. Going to pull it through all of that up till I have 2, go through, And I'm going to go through here, through all of them, and pull up. Okay, and now I have one more on the thing, but obviously I don't have a loop here. But I'm just going to go through there, and then I'm going to go through the next one here. Pull up and here. Unless I have a lot of decreases to do, I do not usually do decreases where my joining thing are. If I had 31 or 33, 34 or whatever, if I have a pretty close to the right amount, I may just go in and not worry about any decreases or increases on that first row. Do the whole row, and then then do some decreases and increases on a second row. I think what I'm gonna do is do my decreases kind of out on the sides. I'll probably do it in here and here on this row, and then I'll do a second row as well. I don't know how well you can see this. It looks like this is on, like this might be my next stitch I need to go in, but because of the way that it pulled up under here, that is actually a part of this stitch. Here, let me show you. When I go in and I pull up a loop, it kind of pulls, and you can see how the leg kind of goes around there, and it's going to make my stitch this side of my leg. So that helps me know that this leg is already part of that stitch, so I need to go to this stitch. I'm going to show you what I would do if I increased where this is, because I did an increase on the Christmas towel, but this is a little easier to see. I'm going to go in just as I was going to do a normal stitch, and did a normal stitch. Then I'm going to go in just under the loop, and I'm going to put a stitch right between them. And then I'm going to go under here and pull through both. And so I've just added a stitch right between the two legs. And that's how you increase. Now I need a decrease for this towel. So I'm going to go under both of those, under the leg, under the loop at the top, pull up, have 2 loops on my hook. I'm going to go under the next leg, go under the loop on the top, pull up. I have now 3. I'm going to pull through all 3. I've just made a decrease. Now I'm going to work my way across under the leg, under the top, pull it up. I'm going to work my way across to the other side because I want to put my second decrease there. And what you will also notice as you're going, it's kind of gathering the towel a little bit. That's perfect. That's actually what we want it to do. Okay, I'm getting here to my side. Oops. Maybe I'm getting there. Where I want to do another decrease. So I'm going to put it under and pull it up through both of those. I've got 2 on my hook. I'm going to go through the next leg, under the top, pull it through both of those. I've got 3 on my hook. I'm going to pull yarn over and pull through all 3. I've just made another decrease, and then I'm going to keep going. Getting here, I've got 1 more before. See how that one's kind of pulling there? And if I kind of straighten up this one, I can see that it's this side of that. It's just over to here a little bit. So I can tell that that leg goes with that first stitch. So I'm going to do in my last leg. Okay, and I'm not going to attach it. I'm going to pull this out a little bit so I can count. I'm going to count these V's at the top. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, 26, 28, 30, 32, 34, just like I thought. Sometimes I count extra. I felt like this was a good count. So I'm going to hook it in the very top of that first stitch. I'm going to go all the way through. I don't need to do any kind of fancy join. I still need to do another 2 decreases to get to 32 stitches. So I already did decreases on the sides. This time I think I'm going to do one at the front and the back. So I'm going to chain one, and I'm going to go in that same place and do my single crochet, and then I'm going to go in one here. If I were to increase, I would do a stitch and then I would go right back into the same stitch, and I just put 2 in there, and that counts as an increase, but I actually want to do a decrease. So I'm going to go into that stitch, pull it up, I have 2 loops. I go into the next stitch, pull it up, I've got 3 loops. I'm going to yarn over and pull through, and that just took those 2 stitches down to 1 stitch. And then I'm going to go all the way across. I'm just going to keep single crocheting around and around and around and around. And when I get to where the white is here in front, I'm going to do a decrease there. If you don't have, like, this was pretty easy because I had these little patterns on the towel. If you don't have it and you're afraid that you're going to forget, take a stitch marker or a bobby pin and just stick it in there. So that when you get around to it, you're like, oh, yep, I'm supposed to decrease here. So, like, say I needed to do 4 decreases here on this round. I needed to do 4. I'd put 1 in the middle, 1 in the middle front like that, 1 in the middle back, and 1 at the 2 sides. That way, when I got to those spots, I would remember I needed to decrease. That's a little tip for you. Oh, looky, I just got to my stitch marker. I remember I need to do a decrease there. So I'm going to go in and pull up 1, go into the next stitch, pull up another, go through all 3. And I'm just going to keep going around until I get to the beginning of the round. Depending on your pattern to what you do when you get to the end of this second round. Okay. Got my last stitch here. I'm going to pull that out so I can count. If I count right, then this little thing right here, that isn't the chain that I used, and then this is the top of my first stitch. So let me count around. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, 26, 28, 30, 32, right where it's supposed to be. Let me snug that down a little bit. I want to stick this in. Pull my thing tight before I pull it up. I'm just going to pull all the way through. And I'm just going to go through again like I was going to do a chain. Because for the dress, I actually need to fasten off. So I'm just going to pull it out. And if you wanted to weave in the ends, you could. Or we're going to be working over that in the dress pattern tutorial, which will be in a few weeks. And some of my patterns, like this Christmas pattern, actually just keep going. And so you would keep going with the next part of the pattern on this one. So I'm going to actually leave this off here. I'm going to show you one of the ways that I use a bobby pin is I'll stick it in there, and then that way it won't pull back through. So if I know that I'm going to be taking a break for it, or if I need my hook, I'm going to do that. So now I've got this one and this one, and those are ready for my tutorials that were coming next week. I hope that this was helpful for you to understand. I know not everybody can read patterns, and sometimes especially if it's something you're not used to, it may not make a lot of sense at first. So I'm happy to bring this tutorial to you. Remember to check back next week for the hat tutorial, and I think it's going to be like 2 or 3 weeks when the dress tutorial will come out. And again, thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful day. I will see you guys next week. Bye.